Back to another episode of One on One. I'm your affable host, Mitch Lafon, and this week from Talking Metal is Mark Strigl. How you doing, Mark?
I'm good, man. I'm excited about tonight's episode. Glenn Hughes.
Yeah.
When and where did you talk to him?
Well, I spoke to Glenn just a couple of days ago on the phone, and Glenn and I, have emailed each other back and forth for the last, oof, 5, 10 years or so. It was in fact Kevin Dubrow of Quiet Riot that made the introduction, and so it's been quite a while that we've known each other. But he's got this new band, California Breed, and so I put a little request in. Can we chit chat? And of course the answer was yeah, sure, let's do it. And so why don't we talk after? Why don't we just
Yes.
we just got to listen to Glenn. But just before we get right into Glenn, let me just mention our new sponsor, Heavy Montreal, the Heavy Montreal Festival, which takes place August 9th and 10th at Parc Jean Drapeau in Montreal. And this year it features Metallica, Slayer, The Offspring, Lamb of God, and a band from your region, Twisted Sister.
Wow.
So there you go. So let's turn this over to Mr. Glenn Hughes. So Glenn, let's talk. Let's talk California Breed,
Yeah, let's talk about it.
the new band. So, listen, you were with Black Country Communion, and for some reason or another, it wasn't able to go on.
Right.
Um, why not just become Glenn Hughes, the solo artist? Why another
Well,
band?
I got to be honest with you, Mitch. After Black Country, I've been solo for a while,
Okay.
and I'd made some interesting albums,
Yeah, absolutely.
and Chad, my partner was Chad Smith, and of course, the Chili Peppers are now back together again, and I really wanted to work more with Chad, and so when Black Country got together, there was like three albums in 3 years, which was a lot of albums, then a live DVD. But the one thing about Black Country, we just couldn't tour because Joe wasn't able to because he wanted to play solo.
Right.
So when Black Country broke up, there was a moment there where a record company came to me and wanted to sign me, for a couple of albums as a solo artist. And I said, how's about if I form a new band, and it doesn't matter what I call it, but how about if I bring you a band rather than me doing a solo? And they said, well, who would be in the band? I said, well, how's about Jason Bonham? And I said, great. And I said, just leave the rest up to me. And we agreed that we would make this new band for this label, Frontiers,
Right.
And of course, who was going to play in the band with Jason and I? Well, of course, a lot of people would have probably thought, looking back over the time, surely they would have probably gone to someone that was famous, But then, Mitch, when you think about that, you got to remember that I have a lot of friends that are famous guitar players, but have careers,
Yeah.
We obviously, the people I know, I'm talking about, the obvious people.
Sure.
And they've got careers that are doing really well, and they've got their own bands, and I didn't particularly want to be in a situation again where a member of the group I was in was going to be primarily doing her solo thing.
Right.
So Jason and I started to think, who can we get to play guitar? And of course then, like last February, in 2013, Julian Lennon, my dear friend, had a party in LA the day before the Grammys, and that's when he introduced me to Andrew Watt, a younger man, born and raised in New York City. I spoke to Andrew for about half an hour, and he was very intelligent, spoke to me in the musicality that I understood. Although a lot older than he was, Andrew told me he's a love for psychedelia music, and, didn't really talk about the, people from the 70s and 80s. He really spoke more of like, early, like late 60s, more Jimmy Page than Eddie Van Halen.
Right.
More Angus Young than Steve Vai. It was more of that kind of guitar. And then I said to him, do you have any music I could listen to? Send me some music. And he sent me some music, and I was in Minneapolis after the Grammys, and I listened to the music. I said, hey, I called him. I said, man, this sounds really, really good. What are you doing next week? Can you come to my home in LA. I've got a studio upstairs in my house, and let's just, let's hang out. You can stay with me for a few days, and let's see what we can come up with. Well, Andrew came out to my house on a Tuesday, and by 5 o'clock that day, we had written Chemical Rain and Solo back, like, completely musically and lyrically. Right. And that same day, I called Jason. I went downstairs in the kitchen, and I called Jason. I said, hey, man, I've got this young man from New York at my house, and we wrote these 2 songs. What are you doing tomorrow? And Jason lives in Florida. He just happened to be in town working with Hans Zimmer on the Superman soundtrack. And I asked Jason if he would come to a studio I would book the next day in Burbank. And I booked the studio, and Jason, he came knowing that I was, wanting him to come to play with Andrew and I, and he just came knowing, that maybe I'd come up with something interesting, because Andrew and I had written something really, really cool, and of course, when you throw Jason Bonham in the mix, you get this sound, it's Jason and I knew we were going to continue, and then we found Andrew. And we kept it really quiet, Mitch. We didn't talk about this all of last year.
I know.
People were asking me, and we successfully never spoke about it. We went into the studio with Dave Cobb in Nashville in December and made this great album. And now I'm talking to you about it, and everybody knows about it. So it's great.
I know. And I know you didn't, because I actually emailed you and said, so what are you doing? And you would never tell me.
I couldn't, man. You see, listen, bro, you're talking about the internet now in 2014. You're talking about people, musicians, fans, critics. There's an element of, if you start talking about something before it's been recorded, before the ink has been signed, you can't do that today. You could do that 20 years ago, but now everything, especially with someone in your band that is completely unknown in the rock genre.
Right.
How people talk on the internet these days. And listen, and it's really important to let you know, it's none of my business what people say or write about me. Good, bad, indifferent, weird, happy, sad, glad, mad. None of my business. My business is to go about making a brand new album in a brand new band. Not Black Country Communion Part 2. Jason and I wanted to do something in a trio.
Yeah.
Someone that didn't sound like Blackmore, Iommi, or Bonamassa. Didn't want keyboards like Derek Sheeran or John Lord. We wanted it to be organically different, coming from a very British trio. Zeppelin were a trio with Robert. Free were a trio with Paul. The Who were a trio with Roger. Trapeze were a trio, the 3 of us, So I think what the bravest thing we did was to have somebody completely unknown. And somebody from New York City, a place I really, really love.
Yep.
And who's very intelligent. He writes, plays, and sings wonderfully, and is ready to go for it.
So let me ask you this then: why bother making a new album in this day and age? I mean, you have been around since 1966, 67.
Yeah, man.
You could go out there and book a club tour or whatever and play the best of Deep Purple and some Black Sabbath.
I know where you're going with this, Mitch. And I've been reading a lot about bands from my peer group, like maybe Joe and Stephen might not make another Aerosmith album. I can tell you this: they will continue to write.
Yeah.
Because as writers, I got to tell you, man. I mean, look, Mitch. An album is a postcard these days. It used to be the whole thing was the album and then possibly a tour. Now it's, the postcard is the album and the tour is and that's the thing about Black Country. The albums were like 3 albums and a DVD and like no touring. It was like criminal.
Yeah, it absolutely was. And that
criminal.
was because of...
And that's why when we got around to doing this with a newcomer, Andrew, we knew the possibilities for touring the globe would be realistic. I'm older than there's 3 generations of musicians. Remember, I used to play with John Bonham back in the day.
Yeah,
and now his son is like it could be my son, and and Andrew's like another generation. It's like it's 3 generations. But listen, man, when people hear this album, I don't think people are going to go, well, I hear a 20-year-old, I hear a 40-year-old, I hear a 60. I don't think you can define that in this music. I don't think you can be going, which one is the 60-year-old guy and which one is the 22-year-old? So we didn't set about to have that. We just made an honest rock album.
Yeah, and I've had a chance to hear it, actually.
And the album was recorded completely live. Dave Cobb didn't really trick me. He just asked me to go out and sing while Andrew and Jason were recording. He said, you can overdub the bass. He said, just go out. He said, do you have the lyrics and melodies? I said, I do. I got them all written out. He said, well, go and have some fun. And I just had some fun. And like 2 days later, the album was completely done. I said, I want to sing now. He said, you've already sung. So it's like, it's these things to me, they're not small things, they're huge things for me. It's like going back in time, We recorded this on 2-inch tape.
Wow.
All the instruments, all from the 60s. Or even like the pedals, look, man, we're not trying to be retro because I am bloody retro. I'm from the 60s, man. It's like, I think this is probably the most real album I've ever made, as you know, I never make the same album twice.
Right, that's absolutely true.
So, I've always prided myself on reinventing myself. I think it's really important for artists not to sit in the same thing for so long. It's really interesting, like Metallica did with Lou Reed. That was like really interesting, it's good for artists to do these things from time to time.
Sure.
So, like I said before, man, we didn't want to make Black Country 2. We wanted to come out, really ready with a brand new band and a brand new smell and a taste.
I was going to ask you, how is this different than than BCC? But let's talk about the touring because we've only got 5 minutes left. Joe had his solo career going, and he couldn't commit to BCC as much as people wanted to.
Oh.
But Jason has the Led Zeppelin experience, and he's going out opening for Heart all summer.
Right.
Have you worked that out where you're
Yeah, it's all good. Back late last year, like October, November, when we were getting ready to record, Jason had these opportunities come in, you see, and we didn't know.
Okay.
We didn't know back then that we would be coming out with an album in May.
Okay.
We thought it would be September. So all of us had actually, like, I'm going to be going down to the World Cup next month,
Okay.
And Andrew's got stuff going on with Cody Simpson. So it's like we kind of like booked ourselves out, So we were playing the Whiskey in a couple of weeks in New York, and then we look from September onwards. We start the tour mid-September. America and Europe. We're going to play America and Europe this year. So the good news is that we're going to be available to tour. It's really important for me to do that.
Oh, absolutely. And when you speak about America, BCC didn't really hit the American market.
Oh, we played like 8 shows. They were really great shows.
But it wasn't enough.
No, God, no. Look. When Joe told me, 4 years ago that he was a solo artist, I said, I'm not trying to tempt you away from your solo career, because I understand about being a solo artist. But we all thought the Black Country community was so good that just maybe Joe would maybe not want to, maybe he would want to commit more to Black Country.
Right.
Well, he never did.
Right.
All is forgiven, all is fine, everybody's friends, it's all good. There was never any animosity or anger. We just couldn't believe that Joe couldn't see how good this band could have been if we would have toured for 2 years.
Yeah, it's too bad it didn't get. Now, the other thing about the other band, BCC, is that when you played the shows, you really sort of stuck to doing the songs from those albums. You didn't really go back into the back catalog. Once in a while, you pull out Burn. What's it going to be like with California Breed? Are we going to hear some Led Zeppelin? Are we going to hear some Sabbath and some Purple? Or you're really...
I think, truly, Mitch,
Yeah.
I think I can say this to you. This is probably going to come out before we do the shows in New York and LA.
Right.
But we're primarily going to play the album. We're really, really focused on on playing the new music. I mean,
Okay.
it's really affirmative to me that new music today, new music for me, in my opinion, is the sole reason that I'm still alive. I can't, for the life of me, live in nostalgia. I think it's nice to do a couple of, cover songs. I think it's cool.
Right.
But for me, as long as I live, I just want to play new music. And I think a lot of my fans want to hear the new music, So, will there be a Zeppelin song? I imagine so. I mean, I imagine there'll be a Purple song. But will there be enormous amounts of covers? I don't think so. I think this band is all about playing the new music, which we're so proud of.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've heard the album, the way it's sequenced, it just flows. It sounds as though it's a set list. It sounds like a concert on.
Thanks, man. So we were all asked to, well, at least Jason and Andrew and I went about doing the, final run through of the songs, okay? And Dave Cobb Andrew and I went to bed. We woke up the next morning. We got together, and we compared our list, and only one song was different.
Right.
We all knew the way was going to start the album. We all knew the duet I did with Julian was going to end the album. We knew that. But what was going to be songs 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11? Well, it just so happened that Andrew and I came up with the same list in the same order. It was pretty wild.
It was pretty wild. Now I can see our time's up. I wanted to ask you about the work you do with animals and stuff, but we'll keep that for a part 2.
All right, you go for it. Take 5 more minutes.
Oh, okay. Well, let's just quickly talk about the animals. You and your wife, you do a lot of stuff. What are you doing these days in terms of animal protection and...
Well, we're very much involved with Rick O'Barry and say the dolphins and Adopt the Arts with Matt Thorne and Gabby and I are still involved with the Montana-based animal care shelter that we've been endorsing for quite some time. We don't have any children. We just have fur children here, so we really, really spend a lot of time helping people that have problems with animals or that need some help, or it's something that we just absolutely adore. I mean, I was with Kings of Chaos in Africa, and Joe Elliott and Matt Sorum adopted 2 tigers, and I'm in the process of adopting a 9-month-old white lion cub.
Wow. Okay.
So it's something that I don't really like to talk about, because I really love helping. If you could see what I saw in Africa, man, elephants being born, right in front of me, and these incredible animals all within touching distance. It was just, it's amazing. And anybody that can get to Africa, I really think they should get there. But we've got 5 dogs here and a cat, and you never know. We could probably end up with another 5 more, but I don't think so. But I think we're at a full house at the Hughes'.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I know we've gone over time. I'll finish just saying this. I just spoke to Jean Beauvoir on the phone, and he wanted me to say hello to you.
Oh, how lovely. I haven't seen him in a long time.
Yes. He wanted me to say hello for him, so there you go.
Great. It's always great talking to you, Mitch.
Always a pleasure. And when we have more time, we'll do a part 2. Maybe when the tour starts, we'll do a
I'd love
follow-up.
to, man. Let's
Absolutely. Do it. Thank you, Glenn. Always a pleasure.
Thank you, Mitch. Have a great day. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Well, there you go. What do you think of that, about that, Mark?
I think it's amazing to hear from such a legendary guy who's done just so much stuff since, the early 70s. He joined Deep Purple, I think in like 73, 74. I know that landmark legendary Burn record came out in 1974, followed by Stormbringer and the highly controversial Come Taste the Band, which is the album that Coverdale and Hughes stuck around in the band as, the co-lead vocalist. And of course, Glenn Hughes was playing bass too. And Blackmore left, so it was, and they brought in a great American guitar player by the name of Tommy Bolin to play on that record. And, he's gone on to do the Sabbath stuff, and he did a solo record with Iommi, and
Yeah.
I mean, what a history the guy has had.
What an absolute history. And what's remarkable about all of that is that he has this history, and as you heard in the interview, he insists on making new music and going out and playing the new songs. And you heard me say in the interview, look, Glenn, pack up all the new songs, go out and just do an evening of Black Sabbath and Deep Purple, and you could make money till the cows come home. And he's like, no, I got to go do new music. So you really got to respect that, quite frankly.
Yeah.
A lot of bands, you look at some of the bands that I grew up on or that I like a lot, like Cinderella, like Poison, like Twisted Sister that we mentioned. They haven't put out a new record in 14, 15, 20 years in some cases or more. And Glenn, man, as soon as he gets a 3 seconds free in his busy schedule, is boom into the studio, new songs, new music. And listen, this time out, again, he's got Bonham on drums, killer combination.
Yeah,
And
and I mean his history with Bonham going back into Black Country Communion was, I mean, those records were very strong too. I know Martin Popoff called Afterglow, I think, his favorite album of 2012.
yeah,
So, and Martin is kind of the critic's critic, if you will. So that really speaks loudly about Glenn's work with Jason in that band. And now they have this new element, the guitar player, with California Breed. So very exciting. I know they're doing, I believe, one of their first shows ever in New York in just a couple weeks. So
yeah.
I'm trying to figure out if I can line up a babysitter and get into the city for that one.
Yeah, you're going to have to go see that because, a Glenn Hughes show or California Breeds or BCC or whatever project he has going on at the time is always a high energy show. It's always, it's a great vocal performance. It's great musicianship. It's always high quality. So there you go, California Breed. And of course, the other thing that he mentioned in the interview right at the end is taking care of animals and animal shelters. Another sign of something that I can respect is somebody who gives of himself for others, or in this case, as Howard Stern likes to call them, furry friends, right?
Right, yeah.
So there you go. Anything else we need to plug, or anything else we need to say, or?
Well, we just want people to subscribe to this podcast, One on One with Mitch Lafon, on iTunes. And it's also great if you can leave a review in the review section on iTunes. We definitely appreciate that, and that helps raise the profile of the podcast. We would love it if you also check us out on Spreaker. And also just check out the whole Talking Metal Digital network at talkingmetaldigital.com. There's my podcast, Talking Metal, which I do with John Astronomy, a.k.a. John Ostrowski. And Victor Ruiz is involved with Mars Attacks, and he also does a lot of the Talking Metal shows with me. So check us out there and support Mitch with a PayPal donation. Mitch's PayPal is mitchminute@AOL.com. So you log on to PayPal, and when it asks you where you want to send the money, you type in mitchminute@AOL.com.
There you go. And of course, remember, come up to Montreal, be a tourist this summer, come see the Heavy Montreal Festival taking place August 9th and 10th at Parc Jean Drapeau. And this year you get Metallica, Slayer, The Offspring, Lamb of God, Twisted Sister, and I will be there myself. So if that's not a great reason to come up.
Yeah, it is. And, Mitch, I think I told you, the week before that, I'm supposed to be vacationing in Lake Placid, which is only like 90 minutes to 2 hours south of there. So I'm trying to think maybe there's a way I might be able to extend the vacation and head up there for at least a day. How long is the festival? 3 days?
The festival is basically 3 days. On August 8th, the Friday night, there's sort of the pre-festival festival where there's some activities going on in the city. And then August 9th is day one. I think doors open around noon. And right off the bat, I think there's like 67 bands or something like that this year. And of course you get Metallica, and then the second night is another great thing. And the best thing about this Parc Jean Drapeau is that it's an island, So wherever you go, there's water around it, and there's only sort of you take the metro or what you call the subway in, and you're just there with like 50,000 of the loudest, craziest metal fans. It's an event beyond. I mean, it's a whole culture onto itself. Quite frankly, it's not even a rock show. It's a community. It's a metal community, and I've been every year since it's started, and I think it started in like 2008, I believe. So yeah, it just gets better and better every year. And festival or no festival, I'll just keep saying it. Metallica.
Yeah, and honestly, if you're in North
Metallica.
America, this is probably one of your only chances to see Metallica.
Only chance this summer, or only chance
Yeah.
this year in 2014 is their only North American show.
Wow, there you go. So
And it's a by request show. So you actually, if you get your ticket, you can go to Metallica.com and you can vote for the songs you want to hear, and they will play them. But
wow.
you know what? Since we're talking about Heavy Montreal, let's just add some other stuff. You know, we've said Metallica, we've said Slayer, we've said the Offspring, but there's also Anthrax that are going to be there this summer.
Awesome.
Hey, great band. Bad Religion is going to be there this summer. Great metal band from Quebec, Voivod, is going to be there. Exodus is coming up here. Overkill, Symphony X. Boy, I'm just trying to think of all these names. Nashville Pussy, Monster Truck. Monster Truck is this great Canadian band. They just did a quick tour through Montreal. Who were they? I think they were opening for Buck Cherry. Just a fantastic band. Who else is going to be there? So many more. You know, you got to
Cool.
come out. You got to come out. Anthrax and Metallica. And you've got Slayer. So you've essentially got three of the big four in Montreal on that weekend, August 8th, 9th, and 10th. So, yeah.
Excellent. Great. Well, it sounds like an amazing lineup. I mean, even some of the non-metal bands. I mean, I love Bad Religion, and back in the 90s, I was a pretty big fan of a couple of those Offspring records. So,
Yeah.
sounds like just a great festival. A lot of heavy metal bands, some punk, and just hard rock bands. So, yeah, let's all try to get up to this festival.
Yeah, you know, the punk bands add a great element to the festival because, you know, just getting pounded over your head all day long with metal can sometimes get to be much after 12 hours. So the Offspring and bands like that add a nice color to it. It keeps it heavy. It keeps it, you know, hard rock or whatever you want to call it. But it also switches it up enough to make it really interesting.
Cool.
So there you go. And of course, check out Glenn Hughes and his new band and album called California Breed. They're going to be on tour, of course, later this year. And Jason Bonham is going to be in Montreal and all around North America with his Led Zeppelin experience opening up for Heart. So there you go,
Oh,
folks.
okay.
Enjoy.
Yeah, which I've seen. I don't know if you've seen him do that, but
I've never seen it, no.
It's quite amazing. I mean, he has one thing where he actually plays Moby Dick with his dad, and I mean these screens come down, and they basically do this just amazing drum solo, yeah, where they're trading riffs, drum riffs, and they go back and forth. I'm not even sure how they do it, but they do it, and it's just sounds great, but there's also this like emotional element because throughout the set, you know, they show videos like from the Bonham home collection of Jason with his dad and all sorts of just neat stories that Jason tells about his dad in between the songs. And the one point he even got choked up talking about the one story, and it's a really fun experience for Led Zeppelin fans, and there's a real